Coney live for the old Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are in the free Odyssey app, good Monday morning. It was all coming at us this weekend, man. College basketball, of course, the Mets and Yankees. Big jet move we will get to a little later on. But after 3 games for the Mets and 4 for the Yankees, they could not be in different places. This morning, the Yankee fan is jacked up, as well as they should be. A 4-game sweep of the hated Astros, and the way that they did it was fun and exciting and felt different. The Yankees did not feel lifeless like they did for most of last year, the exact opposite. And then in Queens, it was lifeless. And you had the Rhys Hoskins thing as he's smacking the Mets around for days and days. They can't hit. It's about the worst start as you could possibly have. Doesn't mean that they're going to win 65 games, but that was as ugly as it could possibly get to open up the season at Citi Field. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I mean, the weekend was amazing. I mean, it was amazing with the amount of sports that we had this weekend and everything that was going on. And I mean, listen, you got to start with Juan Soto. You have to. I mean, you want to talk about a trade? You want to talk about bringing a guy in and getting off to an incredible start? That's who it is, and it reminds me of Pavel Bure when he started with the Rangers before he got hurt. But anyway, look, Yankee fans, your starting pitching was okay. It was pretty good. Your bullpen gets an A+. Juan Soto gets an A++. Oswaldo Cabrera gets an A+.
Well, I mean, you want to say the bullpen gets an A+, and they were good.
Except for the closer. I was getting there. I was getting there.
Because there was a lot of big defensive plays, including Birdie yesterday, that bailed him out.
And that was the other thing. So your defense gets an A+, because Verdugo, Soto, Birdie, all weekend long, everybody had an opportunity to make a play. When they had the opportunity to make the play, they made the play. So we know they're not going 162-0. But I have to tell you, if from a satisfaction standpoint, sitting and watching, and I'm not a Yankee fan, if I couldn't have asked for anything better if I were a Yankee fan. I mean, I feel like this couldn't have been 9 of 17. He has a key home run. He's got a key single yesterday. He's got a key defensive play on opening day. His on-base percentage is .600. His slugging percentage is .765. I mean, all those freaking numbers are off the charts. You couldn't have asked for a better start, honestly. I mean, it was a great start. And the other thing, too, about him, if you watched him this weekend, what you saw is a really, really happy player.
Oh, happy and intense. And I think that the big knock on the Yankees the last couple of years has been that they've been sleepy, not exciting. If Aaron Judge isn't doing something, then the team is just sort of lifeless, and it's just a boring brand of baseball. And the addition of one guy in Juan Soto changed all of that, not just from a production standpoint, but an attitude standpoint. I mean, everything up. Now, we knew how good he was, but then to watch him every day in a uniform of one of the teams that we talk about every day is completely different. Just at the plate, the intensity. Out there in right field, the intensity. He gets a base hit, drives in a run. At first base, he's going crazy. When he throws a runner out at home, he's out there, he's pumped up. It's just like this different feel that the Yankees have been missing. That lightning rod, that energy, that electricity that he brought in these first 4 games. And you're right. If you were to ask a Yankee fan, what's the best way you could possibly open the season? Before even a schedule came out, go into Houston in a 4-game series and sweep them. And that's exactly what they did.
Right. And I do know that, the whole Clay Holmes thing as the closer, look, they hit him hard. And it's, you got to hit it where they ain't, as they once said, as opposed to where they are. And you had defensive plays. And, the Birdie pickup pays dividends. The Verdugo pickup paid dividends this weekend. The Juan Soto pickup paid dividends this weekend. Brian Cashman may not suck after all, but I will say they have to figure out what they're going to do. I know it's only one series, but we all recognize what we saw late in these games. There were guys on base. Houston still has got a very formidable lineup. They hit the ball hard. They just hit it at guys.
Right. And I mean, so you're talking about late in games worrying about Clay Holmes is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another one of these things where how far do you overreact to the good and the bad? They were able to get away with it these 4 games, but obviously that could be an issue. But if you look around the entire team, I mean, if Clay Holmes figures it out and ends up being the Clay Holmes we saw at his best, then this team has very few weaknesses. But I mean, right now they're better offensively, they're better defensively. If Garrett Cole were healthy, they would have been deeper in the rotation. So everything seems to have improved, and that could be one issue coming out of it. But I don't think there's a single Yankee fan that is really worried about that this morning. And they are ready for one of these rides where this team is in first place most of the year. The excitement is ratcheted up. Garrett Cole comes back, and then all of a sudden you're thinking this feels like a real championship team. That's the way you felt coming out of these first 4 games. Obviously, things can change on a dime, but I can't imagine that what we saw this weekend was a total fluke.
No. Yeah, especially with the way that Soto has played. And I would just, seeing how happy he is and how intense it is with him and watching the after the game celebrations, I mean, this is everything that he could have asked for, being on the biggest stage and being able to propel this team to hopefully, will be the playoffs and then maybe a World Series run, and then signing a huge contract after the season's over.
Right, he hasn't even played in the Bronx yet.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
He's all jacked up. He hasn't even gotten a taste of what it's like to put the pinstripes on in the Bronx.
That's exactly right. So he is the story of the weekend. I mean, it was ridiculous. And, a lot of big spots, whether it be defensively, offensively. He was the guy, man. He's everything that you could have asked for. And he's playing for a contract, and he's still young. He's not 30 years old. He's not Pete Alonso, who's going to be 30 years old.
Yep.
I mean, this guy's still young.
He is, isn't he?
What's that?
Isn't Pete already 30?
Yeah, I think he might be. He's either going to turn 30 or he is 30. But I just, the way that they looked, and it's nice to start off with something positive because it was, he came out of the gate flying.
Yeah, he will be 30 in December,
right.
So he'll start whatever the new contract first year next year at 30 years old. So that is the positive. It's nice to start with something positive, and then there's the flip side of what the Mets did or didn't do over the weekend, and the embarrassment that I feel like a couple of fan bases go through around here. It feels like it's only those teams that are capable of pulling that stuff off. And it's generally the Mets and the Jets. That those are the league is laughing at the Mets and the Jets. It feels like every single year. And this was one of those things. This was one of those weekends. And it wasn't just because they lost all 3 games. It was the way that it happened. I mean, the fact that Rhys Hoskins, who was originally a pain in the ass to the Mets, is even more of a pain in the ass. And the whole McNeil thing, and then they wait too long to throw at him, and he's just dominating in this series, to Pete Alonso dancing at UBS Arena the night after they lose a second game in the series, and then they come out and they can't hit on Sunday, to the fans being angry about the dance team because they're losing, just like we said, that if they lose, the dance team's going to be enemy number 1. If they win, the dance team will be fine. But everybody's just disgusted with everything to do with the Mets. All that positive spin that Met fans were saying in the offseason, and David Stearns is rebuilding the farm system, and they'll be fine, and they're going to exceed expectations. All those positive Met fans come out of this weekend going, God damn it! Again! Here we go! Why are we the most embarrassing franchise in baseball all the time?
Well, first and foremost, JD Martinez can't get here fast enough. That's the first thing for me. When I think about their lineup and I think about Jeff McNeil batting cleanup, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, he's not a cleanup hitter, shouldn't be a cleanup hitter, shouldn't be, either be at the top of the lineup and be like a Punch and Judy kind of slap hitter, or be at the bottom of the lineup and maybe, catch a little fire there. But to sit there at being a cleanup hitter, you got to, like, what are you doing? That's what you're throwing out there as a as a lineup. And then, of course, there was Shoeless Joe, and now there's Clueless Pete. And Clueless Pete decides to go to a concert at UBS Arena, which he has every right to do. He can spend his free time any which way he wants to spend it. But if you want to talk about somebody who doesn't understand the big picture and understand what's going on around here, if the Mets do trade him, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's week. It's the first series they get swept, they get bitch slapped in at Citi Field. And Rhys Hoskins makes a mockery out of the whole thing. I will just say that Pete, you got to understand, like, you've had all off season to go screw around and go to parties and go to concerts and do whatever you want, and nobody would say two bits about it. But when you go on stage at a concert on a Saturday night after you've lost your first two games and then come back at a 1:40 game the next morning, I mean, that's a bad look. I'm sorry, it's a bad look, and you are going to get roasted for it. No matter how popular you are, no matter how many people love seeing you on stage on Saturday night, I'm sorry, that's just not part and parcel to a winning athlete with a winning DNA and somebody that wants to lead their team out of the abyss. So that to me is just, maybe that's old school me. When I saw that, I was just like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, I think it's a difference because we see a lot of times, like, for example, let's say the few Mets show up at a Knick or Ranger game the night after that they have a day game, and maybe they got a game the next day, and they're just sitting there and they're hanging out and they're watching the game, and you're like, okay, fine, no big deal. But I think that it was the visual of Pete Alonso doing that ridiculous dance up to the microphone and screaming into the microphone like it's the off season, like he was one of the Kansas City Chiefs who had just won the Super Bowl, and the night after the parade is doing this.
It's a tough look.
I mean, that's what it felt like.
It's a tough look. You want to make a lot of money. These fans are paying a lot of money. I saw, oh God, what the hell was his name? One of these guys that goes to these games and posts like food prices and everything. There was a $40 sandwich at Citi Field.
Probably Darren Ravel.
Yeah, that's who it was. And I don't know, man. It's just, I have a hard time, and I know, you got to blow off steam. I know there's pressure. I know there's your free time, and you should be able to do whatever you want. And I'm not saying that he was drinking that night. I don't know if he was or he wasn't. It's up to him what he wants to do, but he also has to understand what it looks like.
And Saturday was not just a normal loss, too. This was like an embarrassing loss. And you had, your manager gets thrown out. There's a suspension there. You've got, there was a controversy and you lost. I mean, and there's a day game the next day. So, I mean, if he were sitting in a box and we had no idea about it and he posted like one picture about, on his Instagram of him being there, I don't think it would have been a big deal. It's just him being so goofy on the stage and singing. But I probably would have felt the same way if they had won on Saturday. But the fact that they lost and then ended up getting swept, it's not good optics, as they say.
No, it's not, and there will be people that will, again, you do what you want to do. I mean, you take a look at the batting averages to start the season.
Yeah, Pete Alonso was one of the few that actually did something.
Yes, I mean, I don't know. You tell me. It's just, their starting pitching is average at best.
Below average.
It will be interesting to see where the statistics end up at the end of the year. When you take a look at all of the statistics, the metrics, all those analytical numbers, and you take a look at where their starting pitching is going to end up. Right now, their hitting is probably at the bottom of the league, but their pitching is going to be there the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, if this lineup cannot produce, they've got zero shot.
That's why they need J.D. Martinez as soon as possible.
Yeah, of course. And that will help a little bit for sure. But, I mean, obviously, Nimmo, Lindor, and McNeil are not going to hit under 100 for the entire year. But it just shows you that they don't have, if they can't generate any offense, they don't have anything that is good enough to be able to counteract that. Their starting rotation isn't good enough, and their bullpen isn't good enough. So, I mean, if they can't score runs, then forget about it.
Well, they start with the 3-game homestand against the Tigers now.
That is right.
And what's the weather going to look like? Today, do you think they'll play today?
They will get the game in tonight. I am almost positive about that.
they'll get the game in tonight. But then tomorrow looks really, really bad. And then I'm not sure about what time. Is Wednesday a day? No, Wednesday's a night game as well.
3, 7, 10 games.
Yeah. So
in April.
Yeah, tonight will be clear. The rain will have moved through tonight, so they'll get that game in. Tomorrow is a complete washout, like the entire day. And then Wednesday, I'm not so sure yet, but it'll still be raining. And then I don't know about the nighttime. Maybe they can get in a doubleheader late afternoon or something into the night. But yeah, they'll at least play tonight, which I think is a good thing, because to sit on what happened over the weekend and then not play tonight and just have everybody screaming about it, go out, win a game, try to get that stink off you, and try to get to the positivity, the positive vibes you're supposed to have at this time of year.
When we were looking at the batting averages, and you said, well, at least Pete Alonso did something this weekend. Yeah, but the point being is that it's not just that. It's the team. You're supposedly the team leader. I don't know if do I remember Aaron Judge running around out on stage with anybody?
No. Now, we don't know what he's,
and again, like, if you do something where you go to a concert or something like that, that's your right to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, it's just.
You just got to know that there's going to be people that are not happy about it when the team's playing so poorly.
And when you get, it's your home opener, it's, everybody's talking about how this is going to be a team. Even Ron Darling told us last Thursday, that it was going to be a team that was going to exceed expectations. Well, I have to say, just watching these 3 games and listening to what people have said about the Mets this offseason, I think they're living up to expectations.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Which is really disappointing.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a normal the Pete Alonso thing, really, where I don't care that I'm not going to scream about it, but I do think it's a bad look. The reason why it's a really bad look is the way that those first 2 games went. I mean, you didn't win one of them. And the first game is basically,
how many strikeouts?
Right. You had 1 hit in opening day. It's embarrassing. Then you come back again, and that the second game, the Saturday game, was as ugly as humanly possible. And then Pete Alonso's having the time of his life, where Met fans are, like, miserable. That's the problem.
So you also have Luis Severino, who just got lit up. And then you have Tyler McGill now having some examination of his shoulder.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep, that's
all
right.
Good. And I'm usually like the guy that's the half full guy right now. Right now, it's half empty. I don't care what anybody says. And getting this thing full to the top.
Flew it to the top.
It's going to be a little tough getting it there.